New branding, same show, dreadful results. Welcome to our live question and answer. One Soccer Direct, Gareth Wheeler, AGR, Wilson, the three of us hanging out, breaking down Canada's 1-1 draw against Curacao. What happened? It seemed just about the longest game on the longest day of the year, and it was a time where Plan B, C, and D, none of them worked for Canada, who come away with the results in terms of the draw, but will feel a little bit fortunate based upon the way that things played out. How you doing after that one, AGR? Before we hear from you, I should say to everyone, get involved in the live chat. We'll be taking your comments and questions, and we'll be answering throughout the show. You are the ones driving the bus here. We're just doing our best. As well, you can hit us up on X, on Instagram. Let us know. We'll try to get all your comments on the show here tonight. Back to you, AGR. How you feeling after that?
Yeah, it was definitely a bit of a muggy one. It was not the prettiest of football matches. It felt like, you could, again, I don't know if it was just me watching it. It's not particularly hot today in Vancouver, but I feel like I'm sweaty after that game. Like I feel kind of disgusting after it, but it was just one of those games, typical Concacaf, Houston, 5:00 on a Saturday. Definitely one where not the greatest showcase of a game. And it's unfortunate for Canada because despite that, for 94 minutes, they had the result they needed to get through, to wipe this of your memories forever. Instead, you make it just a little bit harder for yourself getting out the group. That will be frustrating because sometimes you can have ugly performances, but to throw it away, they did it like they did at the end will hurt the most for them.
Dave Allen already sticking in the knife a little bit. I, on One Soccer Direct, thought it was going to be an easy win. There you go. Well done, Dave. Hold me accountable. You're right. To me, it should have been an easy win. Curacao is not a very good team, but unfortunately tonight, Canada simply didn't show up. Jordan Wilson, you also agreed that Canada would win, maybe with a little bit more resistance than what I expected, but did you expect what we saw here tonight?
No, not at all. And that's off the back of what we've seen from Canada against Ukraine, what we've seen against Canada. I know they didn't win that match, but Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, like you see a team that is that has such resilience. And then obviously the most recent one against Honduras, 6-0, and they were just methodical and could find the back of the net and scored 6 goals, but in different ways. You're thinking, okay, Curacao, you're going to take care of. But mention against a team that sits in a low block, a 4-4-1-1 is going to be difficult to break down. And I think Canada, when they're in a rhythm, they're a difficult team to beat. But you mix in the heat, you mix in the fact that they weren't playing in that rhythm, and then Curacao started to believe and started to gain a little bit momentum and made it. They didn't even really make it a chippy affair. They just made sure that Canada couldn't do the things that they liked. So, I mean, there's no world where I thought it was going to be a 1-1, and there was no world I thought at the end of 90 minutes, I'm coming out thinking, okay, Canada's lucky maybe to get a point in this match, because we'll talk about the offside goal that was given. But yeah, I didn't think Curacao would frustrate Canada this way. So obviously, yeah, you can look in the tournament and be like, okay, you take the point. Wow. But Canada wants to go and dominate matches, and they didn't do that today. I felt like for the most part, specifically the second half, Curacao could be happy because they dominated and they dictated the tempo. And that's what Jesse Marsh and his team has preached. Like, they want to do that against teams. So this is going to be a hard and a bitter pill to swallow.
Just as bad of a performance we've seen from Canada in 18 months. We'll continue to share reactions. If you're just jumping on the stream, welcome. Canada played Curacao to a 1-1 draw. Add your comments or questions into the chat, and we will get to them. Let's roll the highlights of tonight's game, and let's get into a little bit more. What went wrong? Jordan, you said that Curacao didn't let Canada get into their rhythm and not let them dominate performances. I mean, they're up 1-0 so early in this game. 9th minute, the ball goes in the back of the net. It's Nathan Saliba. Oh, Canada, oh, baby. And it's 1-0. You're thinking this game could be cruise control, but they really struggled after that. I'm not sure if this was anything to do with Curacao. It was a game without rhythm, Jordan. And simply put, it seemed like there were square pegs and round holes, like Canada players in a makeshift starting 11 that might not be preferred based upon their style of play more so than anything else. Your thoughts, Jordan?
No, absolutely. I agree with you, Wheels. You thought when Nathan Saliba, that's a great hit from him in the 9th minute. You're like, okay, well, maybe this is going to be a choppy match, but they're still going to get the job done and score some goals. But look, with the way they played, they couldn't get the things done. Here, that resting defense is poor from Canada. The giveaway from Johnson, then to try to make it up. these situations that they fell in was because the match was a bit too open in terms of they weren't organized defensively. I thought Curacao were. I thought in the second half they had a little bit more belief. So AGR, when I look at this match and I'm going to evaluate it, I'm thinking that Curacao built off the momentum because Canada just wasn't there today and did the things that they love to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Curacao did a great job of building in the game. That's something where we've seen this at times with Canada. They play their best football from minutes 1 to 60, just with how intense they are. And sometimes when you've got conditions like the heat, that can be a dangerous game because if you don't put away the match by minute 60, it allows teams to stick around. Against Honduras on Tuesday, the game was over by minute 49 when that second goal went in. And the fact that they let Curacao hang around, it opened up Canada, to lose a bit of fatigue. And I think little things started to add up, like Ali Ahmed coming on and coming off. I think that's one where Canada, you saw it with Mauro Biello kind of mixing up the number of subs he had left. You could have really used an extra body at the back, an extra body in midfield in those dying stages. And, that Ali Ahmed injury loomed large in that regard. So, yeah, definitely for Canada, it also stands out as well that they just didn't put away the game enough early. And Curacao, to their credit, I like the subs they made too. Like it's one of their subs who ends up scoring the goal as well. It made a big difference.
You guys are being too. By the way, Jordan, I want to get to your message. My honest opinion on Waterman and Kamal Miller. You guys are being too kind. I understand that you're giving Curacao some praise here, AGR, but we're a year away from the World Cup. Canada's not going to be playing teams like Curacao. Well, they might be in an expanded World Cup, but there's no way they can play down to their competition like they did here tonight. There's no excuse. I know they made 6 changes, but Jonathan David's still in the starting 11. Nathan Saliba, him and Zoran Basong were actually the 2 players I thought played half decent for Canada tonight. The rest, way, way, way off the pace here. And this is a team where their manager comes out in his pre-match press conference saying, it's insulting that you ask me how we're going to play this game because we have plan B, C, or D. You have a team with all kinds of swagger right now. There's stuff going on off the field. All that stuff is all good, by the way. The team building, the motivation, if you go out and perform. And tonight, in a competition where every game matters, we keep on hearing this, every game matters, that they're not respected enough within this region. Well, they absolutely laid an egg here tonight. And I think it's fair to say, just not to sugarcoat it, and say this was just an awful night. And some players who are competing for spots potentially in 2023 didn't cover themselves in glory tonight. That's something else that stands out for me. I think you both are being very kind here. You can defend yourself if you want, but
no, we are being kind. It was poor. It was poor. Like there's no way that you can come after a match in any game, but specifically when you're looking at Canada going to the Gold Cup and you're playing Curacao ranked 90th, and that people dubbed, I said, a must-win game. And that you could probably name 3 players that played to their level, that's not good enough. That's not but I think that has to do with the rhythm of the match. I feel like this is no excuse. This is just what I saw. And this is just what I feel about it after is that it's very difficult on a day when nothing's going well for you to go and be a star performer and stick up. This is what Canada does well is when one player goes and presses, they all do. And then everyone gets into a flow and they get into a rhythm. That wasn't there at all today. You have a Saliba goal that was well struck by him, calling off a song. I thought it was a great hit. But there weren't moments in this match. Maybe that chance with Tali O'Shea in the first half where he should have chipped it instead of going low. Okay, if that goes 2-0, maybe you can start building off of that. But outside of those, there weren't many situations in this match where I was like, okay, they're playing their type of ball. And they know that. So for me, you're right, Wheels. They did lay an egg. This wasn't a positive performance. I'm just glad to get a point, and maybe it's a lesson learned and we won't see them playing like that again.
I'll say my thoughts on the center back. I want to get to the end of the game though, guys. Match management. It was puzzling right at the end of the game. Canada made 4 changes. Then the camera cuts to Kyle Larin and Luc de Fougerolles, all kitted up, ready to go. The coaching staff looked like they were panicking, completely forgot they'd already made 4 changes. So Larin comes in, de Fougerolles stays off, and you finish the game with Oluwaseyi, David, and Larin all on the field at the same time. When you're up 1-0 against a team that has been outplaying you in the second half, I would love an accurate description of what actually happened here. Because if we're going to focus on the little things, that go into a team heading into the World Cup. It's like, get your substitutions, be properly organized, get things right, make the right changes within the game. This is why it's critically important. And I was hard on Jesse Marsch based on what's played out over the last little bit, because Canada didn't need him on the touchline come the World Cup, not suspended, not watching from afar, not getting into spats, public spats with the reporters or Concacaf or whoever. They need Jesse Marsch coaching on the sideline, don't they, AGR? That's case in point here tonight, because the management by the coaching staff was nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, well, that just whole sequence was catastrophic. I mean, you can't hide behind that. And to the point, like one thing that stood out, just to go back to what you were saying earlier, like the back line was not good tonight. Granted, I'm not sitting here too mad about that, because you're missing your entire first choice back line. So this is, hey, we're learning about what the depth option is like behind the Moise Bombitos, the Derek Corneliuses, the Alfonso Davieses. This is what you get sometimes. But in a match where Kamal Miller was struggling, he was on a yellow card, Joel Waterman wasn't having a great game, granted Bassong was solid. I'll agree with that as well. He was probably, well, for Canada, he was my best player of the match from that perspective. Yeah, not bringing in a Luc de Fougerolles, not bringing in something to kind of shake up the backline really stands out, because it felt like it was just a crack that was opening up, and every offside goal was almost like a warning, like this thing's about to break, let's do something. And that also stands out, that you had the chance to, say, sorry, Kyle Aaron, we messed up the subs, the numbers are bad, it's a 1-0 game, we do not need a striker, we need a Luc de Fougerolles, we'll throw him in. That whole sequence was catastrophic, but it kind of just sums up the second half, right, for Canada, right? Like they never seemed to get a hold on the game, and they never adjusted appropriately, and that's what ended up costing them.
I don't know if this was the case, but for me, who even the times in my career where I was subbed on in a match to close it out, it felt overconfident. Like if I'm Curacao looking at you guys subbing on Kyle Laren and it's 1-0, and there was an offside goal who I would say wasn't offside for me. And then they were knocking on the door, ready to beat it down, ready to salvage and get a point. I mean, you fumbled, you dropped the ball for sure. And that's one of those where it's Biello or staff, they're going to raise their hand and obviously talk to Jesse Marsch about that. But from top to bottom, coaches and alike, it was an underperformance. Like it was a bad day at the office, and they just have to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Across the board, we can go through position by position. A lot of comments about Kamal Miller and Joel Waterman in the chat. I think it's quite clear that those two players are good ball-moving center backs. They're really good in possession, AGR. You've broken this down so many times. They can distribute from the back. What they aren't necessarily, they're not necessarily suited towards the way that Marsch wants to play. That's why they're called for so many fouls. They're trying to play tighter. They're trying to be more aggressive in terms of the press. And players like Cornelius and Bombito do it with ease. They're suited. That's how they're built to play. These two players are much different in their profile. I think they're much more comfortable when they're sitting back, giving a little bit of space and defending and reading the game that way. I don't think they're bad players. I just don't think that this system really suits what their strengths actually are. That's where the issue is when you get a little bit deeper. I've read in the chat that Luc de Fougerolles is Canada's third best center back. Maybe he's not the third best center back in terms of quality and readiness right now, but he probably suits the system better than both Waterman and Miller, and that's why those two players struggle to a certain degree. Would you agree with that assessment, AGR? Am I on to something here?
Yeah, well, I think one thing I always like to say about center backs is, like, with that position, there's a certain mix you need, right? And Bombito and Cornelius are a great example, because what Bombito has in pace, okay, Cornelius maybe doesn't. So he'll do a little bit of the covering. But then what Bombito doesn't maybe have in aggression, Cornelius takes up in that front. And what I see when I see Joel Waterman and Kamal Miller together is two very similar profiles. Like, they like to get on the ball a lot. They like to hold possession. Great. But who's going to be the guy who's going to make that recovery run in behind? We saw Curacao got in behind a few times. Who's going to be the guy that steps up and plays aggressively the way Cornelius has done so well? The answer wasn't really either of them. The one that really stood out was the Locadia goal that was offside. Look at the way Waterman just dropped off him completely. That stands out, because if it's Derek Cornelius, for better or for worse, he's flying through there. Maybe he gives up a penalty, but he's playing that aggressive Marsch style. And I think with Waterman and Kamal Miller, they've kind of struggled with that. And that's okay when there's one of them paired beside a Cornelius, paired beside a Bombito, even a Defugero, as we saw versus Honduras. Defugero was aggressive. You know, he's a 19-year-old. He was out here flying into tackles, and we didn't maybe see that from a Waterman Miller. And I think it's a bit of a stylistic thing. And I think that's when you're looking at the race for the roster. That's going to maybe what hurts them.
But I don't think it's even about partnership. I don't think either one of them suited to play this way because he needs both center backs playing the exact same way, Jordan. That's why Cornelius and they need another center back that's suited to play the way that Jesse Marsch wants to play. Because with all due respect, the plan B question was a decent one because we know how they play. Canada plays one way, and there's different variances. There's different little things that go around, but you know they're going to press. You know what they're going to bring in terms of energy. You know the style of play, Jordan. I just don't think either one of those center backs, like in an ideal situation, will see the field in a game of significance. I just don't.
Yeah, Jesse Marsch said it this past week. He has a plan A to double Z. Okay, so 27 plans. But in those 27 plans, none of them has center backs that are going to be playing the ball at the back. They're going to take their time. They're going to drop off. None of those 27 plans have that in store. And I bet my bottom dollar on that. He prides himself and his system on center backs that are going to take care of business 1v1. Meaning strikers, when they hold up the ball, the center backs poking. The center backs making sure they do those tactical fouls where it's a foul and they stop the play, but they're not getting a yellow card. Better yet, furthermore, center backs that are winning the ball and playing forward. Waterman, quality player. Like, I've liked him. I've loved his game from Calgary to CF Montreal. I love the fact that he's a guy that can pop into the midfield. I love that Kamal Miller with his left foot can see all these passes. But look, that is a part of your game that's not highlighted in this system. In this system, you have to be good 1v1 in a bubble in a radius of 15 yards. So it is actually unorthodox defending. Normally, you're like, oh, if I'm a center back, hey, let me get this midfielder to get in that line of sight so, they can block a pass. Give me the right back to come in to help me. If I step, I know someone's coming in behind. This system is very insecure. However, Maurice Bombito, Derek Cornelius, they've made it look easy, but it is not. You see them a lot. They're very isolated. So you're asking Kamal Miller that's not used to the system, playing Portland Timbers, where you have some help and you sit back, now to go on the front foot all the time, it's difficult. And not all these players can adapt it. There's two center backs right now that have done it. Maurice Bombito and Derek Cornelius. Why you can't really play without them. Luke Defugero for me is the next one who looks comfortable in those 1v1 situations. But again, Marsch's style, it's very difficult to adapt to. And you can see those two players that are quality. They're just not getting it as easy as the others.
Lots of comments coming into the chat. Let us know your thoughts. Ask questions as well. What if Jordan can explain the math behind plans A to double Z?
Ollie Platt with
27.
little shot.
Thanks, Platt. Thank you.
Something like that.
You know what? Ollie Platt is respecting you less, Jordan, than Concacaf respects Canada. So you're like down here. So get involved in the chat. There's some good stuff going on there. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but Jordan loves what I say. Roll the tape. Remember after Copa America, we were asked on One Soccer today, name one player that wasn't in the Copa America side that's going to make an impression and push for a big role in the World Cup. Who did I say?
Saliba.
Who did I say?
Looking nice.
There's
a bright spot. We have a bright spot to talk about. We do.
And it's not just the goal. Not just the goal. Like I thought he was really, really good. I thought he was Canada's best player. Both of you guys agree? Saliba,
I do,
best
and
player?
I can tell you why. I can tell you a reason why that's probably not decorated. He lost the ball tonight a couple of times, but his recovery run, like the fact that he can actually just cover so much ground and 1v1, sometimes you could play back to center back, but he can turn and has a pace to get by players. I like him. Kone, this is a wake-up call for him because if Saliba can add some goals, if he can cover that same ground, and if he's reliable, then Marsch is going to look at both of these players that can move and be like, yo, I'm going to go with Saliba. So he has to make sure Kone steps up that game and doesn't have a performance like he did today. Because I think he's quality, but right now Saliba has the edge.
Yeah, Sebastian 100%. Making a comment. We should have played our A team tonight in B side against El Salvador, not the other way around. I agree with that sentiment. AGR pickup. Sorry, I just want to get in that comment right there.
No worries. No, with Saliba too, just what stands out is just how aggressive he's been. Kone, might be a confidence thing. He took a lot of time on the ball today. I know I saw some comments earlier up in that, and hey, when you're in a certain system, certain style of play, that's not a bad thing. But it's like Jordan mentioned with the center backs, there's just certain qualities you need, and from the midfielders, you see with Eustachio, Chouanier, and now Saliba, who've been some of the best midfielders under Marsh. It's quick, it's direct. You get on the ball, it's head up, quick turn to get past a defender, quick pass. And sometimes right now with Kone, be it confidence for whatever, he's just taking that extra touch, that extra dribble. That play that sums it up was he did a fantastic job early in the first half, drops the shoulder, opens up a shot, lines up the shot. Then he went for to drop the defender again. And it's like, okay, it's a nice play. Yeah. But just shoot it, go quick, go direct. And I think that's what we're seeing from Saliba. Instinctually, he's just getting on the ball and it's driving forward, making things happen. And I think that's what Jesse Marsh wants from his midfielders. And I think the same goes for, anywhere on the roster. Guys that are playing quickly, playing directly are benefiting from it. Zoran Basong was an example today. There's been countless other examples. And it's been good to see Saliba shine, because between his move to Anderlecht now and this Gold Cup, it seems like the start to 2025-26 could be very exciting for him.
Jordan, anything else to add on that, or should we get to the wingers? Because
no, we can get to the
Nelson
wingers.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just a great hit. I love that he hits it into the ground too. I think that's like a safety net for a volley, just hitting it straight into the ground. But no, I thought he was a bright spot tonight for sure. And when you score back to back as well for the national team, your confidence has an all-time high. So salute the boy. Saliba played out today.
I thought the wingers really struggled in this one. I don't have Nelson making the 23. Did nothing to convince me he's ready. He's just a little bit, at times you can see the player he can be, just a little bit too erratic, inconsistent for me. Schaffelberg, same thing. Just his directness. There was not enough distribution with pace for him to be effective. He's very much like that's the way he plays one way, and he plays the Marsh style of football. That's what I'll say about Schaffelberg. Ahmed, I'm not going to lose my mind about him coming back on. I think it was a little bit silly, him coming back on the field when he clearly wasn't 100%. But for me, it wasn't as ridiculous as what happened with Adekubi, the limping back out with a torn Achilles. It wasn't anything like that. He just tried to walk it off. So I'm not going to really get into that too much. But the wide areas, like Buchanan might be the second best player in Concacaf right now. He's been so good, but you take him out of the team and you really miss something, don't you? Jordan, I just felt like the wide areas were maybe the weakest part of the field for Canada here tonight.
Yeah, and I think too, this is like, again, a wake-up call for Nelson. Like, but when you're a player that kind of, this is redemption time where you come into the national team and you got to kind of state your claim. Everyone else can have a poor day, but you can't. That's just the reality. You have Miller that's probably going to be coming back, that Jesse Marsh trusts, and this is going to be World Cup year. So if you're falling 5th, 6th, 7th on the totem pole of wingers, like you're not going to be making that cut. So it's tough. You can see his frustration when he's coming off, because it wasn't a good day for anyone. But specifically when wingers don't show out in the system, you don't get to press, you don't get to win the ball, ball's being played in behind, and you don't get the ball to your feet, you get into a rhythm in a negative way. And I saw that with Nelson. I don't think it was solely on him. The game was difficult, and it's difficult to shine that type of game, but it hurts him the most, because he's a guy that, for me, is playing catch-up to try to show Marsh what he can do and that he can be trusted.
AGR?
Yeah, it's tough to get a full read on the wingers, because I think that's one where genuinely Curacao had a good game plan for them. Like, their fullbacks weren't very aggressive. They almost kind of knew, like, okay, if you go too far up, you don't want to leave some space. At the same time, with wingers, you have to be flexible. If you notice your fullbacks maybe they're getting the better of you, maybe try to drift inside, open up space for an overlap. It did kind of feel like Canada was trying the same thing over and over in those wide scenarios. Granted, Tejan Buchanan came on and he wasn't really able to break open. Granted, he had that chance late on. I don't know why he didn't just shoot it on his left and why he tried to jiggle over to his right to get that shot. It felt like if he hit it with his left, it could have been a potential late winner. But I think that's something to watch for from Schaffelberg and Nelson, because what's really stood out about Ali Ahmed and Tejan Buchanan when they've been at their best, and even Schaffelberg, it's like, for Schaffelberg, it's been the direct play, like you mentioned, Wheels, that Marsh style player. But for Ahmed, I love that one moment he'll pop out wide, taking guy 1v1, but then he'll drift inside and cause so many problems in that way. Buchanan has started to do that. And I think you need to have that as a winger, because you just can't be a one-trick pony, because defenders are at a high enough level where, these are still guys on Curacao playing in Netherlands, playing at a high level. And they know how to deal with 1v1 play. You gotta surprise them a bit.
All right, we'll have our moderator line up some questions, and we will take a number of your questions after we just deal with the striker position for a few moments. Not Jonathan David's best night. Tani Oluwaseyi started this game as a reward. It must have. That's the only explanation I can come up with for how well he played against a very weak Honduras side. Shocked that he played 90 minutes here tonight. Maybe your thoughts, that pairing struggled at times, weren't necessarily on the same page, but I mean, they weren't the only issue. The problem started at the back and manifested their way all the way up the field.
Yeah, I thought I'd see Promise David or Daniel Jefferson tonight just get substantial minutes. I know, obviously, Jonathan David, you build your team around him at that 10 position. And like I said, it's been the word, this whole call be the word for the rest of the couple of days until they play El Salvador, is just like the lack of rhythm. But that's the phrase. Like, they weren't in that rhythm. Jonathan David wasn't in that rhythm. When they can play and press and work together, it's that. I just wonder as well in the first half, that chance with Tani, great step by Joe Waterman, showing that it can put a pass on a platter. If Tani Oluwaseyi chips it, finishes that one, and it's 2-0. I think we talk about this match differently. It's maybe not the best performance, but going 2-0 at halftime, you're feeling positive about how things are. So, yeah, I mean, definitely things are going to shake up against El Salvador, because you can't have a stale performance in your third match in the group stage.
AGR, I mean, Jefferson was announced going on loan to Preston North End in the league championship. Sometimes when a move's about to transpire, managers just prefer to leave that player out for that game, so their entire focus is back on the game at hand. I'm not sure if that was the case, but I'm assuming that may have had a factor with Jefferson not coming in. I need to see more of him, quite frankly, in this team.
Yeah, I mean, he's someone we need to see more of, just because even when we saw him, like against Cote d'Ivoire, it's tough with Jefferson because there's a player in there. You can see it when he scores goals, when he does nice actions, you see the quality, but then there's just large stretches of the game where we haven't seen Jefferson. What I thought in this game is it was, sometimes with Tani Oluwaseyi, it's been a very strange season for him in the sense that he's had an excellent year for Minnesota in terms of output, but because of the style they play, he's had to get used to getting lost in games for 10, 15 minutes because Minnesota only hold 30% of the ball. So he can get lost in games. In fact, against Honduras, he got lost in that game, but he came back and scored a great goal. In this one, when it was clear it wasn't working for him at 60, I'm very surprised he didn't just bring Promise David in, because this is a guy that scored in 2 consecutive appearances. Look, sometimes it's just not a day for a striker. Your touch is heavy. You're not getting in that areas. Tani Oluwaseyi had a great chance, didn't score it. That's the luxury of having Promise David, Daniel Jefferson, this open competition. And it is a bit, I guess, frustrating that Tani Oluwaseyi and Jonathan David both end up on the pitch at the final whistle when they're both not having it, because you have all these options. Jesse Marsh spoke in midweek. He told me about having the weapons. Well, you got to use your weapons. And the fact Promise David is an unused substitute, that was a very missed opportunity, in my opinion.
This is the time to do it, man. This is the time to play
100%.
them. That's what the Gold Cup is.
100%. So. Honestly, just a bad night all around. That's how you can sum up that. Do we want to bring up some questions? Do we have some questions lined up? There's been so many on the chat. Someone was asking my thoughts on the investigation into Jesse Marsh. I shared my thoughts, and a number of people didn't like them in our YouTube chat. Look, I'm just being honest from what I was told, what happened with CONCACAF, and just the sequence of events that's led to this point. I said it before and I'll say it again. Canada needs a head coach, a manager right now, not a motivator, not a spokesperson. They just need someone to get the most out of this group, because it's a very, very good team. And that's where the entire focus should be. Drop your questions into the chat, please. And thank you. And we'll try to hit it. There's been so many. If you've already asked a question, I mean, the chat's been going. We'll just type it in again or copy and paste it, and we'll make sure we get to it. I'd love to just, what is considered success? I mean, they have to win a knockout round game at the World Cup. It's a home World Cup. That has to be the case for me.
I like that.
I say win 2 games. If you can, look, people are like, oh, you're crazy if you don't think making it out the group. I'm like, depending on the group. Like, I'm sorry, I still have to see how this is assembled before I'm like, oh yeah, Canada are making it out of this group. I mean, for me also too with World Cups, it's about stages. Last one you score a goal but don't win a game, and that was a milestone. I think this one, winning a game, maybe winning and drawing, like try to get a winning both or two, that would be success to me.
Where do you think Jesse's going with the goalkeeper situation moving forward? Maybe surprise some. Sinclair again coming off a clean sheet. It's back-to-back games. Crepeau's on the bench. I still want to see what option C looks like. And it's no disrespect to either one of them. I think that both of them are good, but neither one of them are great. That's my honest assessment on them. AGR, what do you think? Or go ahead, Jordan. You too.
No, I just wonder with option C, like if they come in 2025, how many opportunities will option C get to earn Jesse Marsh's trust before? I hear you, because I think Crepeau and St. Clair, like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Like they're very similar in terms of output and how you're feeling.
But they just play differently. They have different strengths and different weaknesses. But
absolutely. But it's like, it's not like I'm looking at one and I'm like, oh, he's far superior than the other. And I don't think either one is poor. I just think both of them, if they have their moment, one might edge the other during the time it's going to the World Cup. So it's going to be a race to the end.
You see, did you see Benjamin? Was it Jesse Marsh who was blowing the whistle? That's brilliant. Imagine if they cut to a shot. Another bit behind a laptop with his staff beside him, just
Benjamin, well done.
That is great.
He's trying to get the boys to press. Try to get them to
get him on this feed. Get Benjamin on this feed. What do you think about the goalkeeper position, AGR?
Yeah, I think Sinclair is the slight edge right now, just in terms of form. But like, it could go either way. You could tell me next week Crepeau could have a fantastic game if he gets an opportunity, and it can change. Honestly, I think the next 12 months is just going to be looking back at the games they played and see who gets the most out of the backline. It genuinely might come down to fit, like you mentioned, but not just fit in terms of fit in the style, but also fit with the players around him. And I think there's still some kinks that both have had. Like Crepeau has also had some moments where he hasn't necessarily fit in with the backline around him, and the same goes for Sinclair. And there's been moments where they've looked comfortable. So I think those little moments will add up a big time by next year.
Dave asked a question. What does this mean for Tuesday? What are you expecting? El Salvador is playing Honduras right now. Has the game start? When does it kick off? Is it kicked off already? 10 o'clock. I mean, that game will be directly relevant to what is at hand for Canada. If El Salvador beats Honduras, that's probably the most negative result, because it's a 3-horse race between Curacao, El Salvador, and Canada at that point. So if you're a Canada fan, you're hoping that Honduras, maybe El Salvador, 1-1 draw, that would be a decent enough result for Canada. What does this mean for Tuesday, AGR? What are you expecting from the Canadian side of things?
Well, just going to need a response. I think with Canada, they still control their destiny, right? Because if they win, there's no questions. I think they even secure the group unless, if they would secure the group, there's no other scenario where any team could pass them. So win confidently.
Curacao would have to win like 8-0 or something.
They couldn't, because they have 2 points. So if Canada wins, they'd be at 7, and Curacao would be at 5. So Canada would have to win outright, no problems. So get that win that you need, but do so convincingly. Get your momentum back, get some goals, maybe throw some guys that in the lineup that we mentioned. Promise David's a great example. Let's get him in. Let's get him hungry. Some of these other guys, Luc de Fougerolles at the back, let him build off what he showed in Vancouver on Tuesday, and just kind of reset the vibes. Because look, this is tournaments. You're not going to play good every game in a tournament. So just make sure that this doesn't define your tournament. It was more like, oh yeah, remember, this reminds me a lot of like Peru or Chile last year. Like those weren't great games, but you almost forget about them because you get past them and you end up going and doing bigger and better things. Let this be that game. Don't let it be something where this was the turning point.
I expect a stronger.
Someone asked the question about Cornelius. It's not looking great. I mean, it's been kind of quiet about him. Or either one of you read anything, heard anything?
To be honest,
about Cornelius.
He trained on Wednesday when I went to training, like half. So I think he's close. I think what Jesse Marsh said was he's just they didn't want to risk him. So I think that's something where hopefully he responds well, but I have a feeling we won't see him until a quarterfinal, and honestly, you shouldn't need him until a quarterfinal.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
remember Jesse did say ahead of the first game that he would be available, and he wasn't. So coaches will only tell you.
Well, I saw him on the field on Wednesday, so that's what. If you want something from a source,
Okay.
that was my eyes.
And Jonathan Osorio out as well with a lower body injury tonight. Jordan, what are you expecting Tuesday before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I just think a stronger and more well-balanced side, like a Tajon starting from the beginning. I want to see Promise David start from the beginning and really see, can he score a third goal in his third match? Like, you want to see that. I think Luke DeFigeroa as well. We're starting to see like a silent leader, someone playing Marsh's way well. He's very young, but he's sprightly. There's a lot to like. A player like Larea, look, when your back's against the wall, you have a bad performance, someone to win fouls, someone to come with that energy, someone to step up to the opposition. Richie to start as well. So yeah, I'm expecting those subtle movements to kind of change the complexion of this team, because look, Jesse Marsh is gonna give them an earful for the next couple of days. But at the end of the day, you have another match to redeem yourself before you get into the knockout stage. So you expect them to be 10 toes down and ready to work. That's what El Salvador is.
I get the argument in last week on match night. It was Jordan, me, and Jimmy Brennan on that program. You can watch that each and every weekend on One Soccer. Jimmy said, a pragmatic performance, even if it's ugly, it's just all about the result. And it's all about winning in the end. A night like this, though, doesn't make you feel great because, yes, you're focused on this tournament, but you're focused on progress heading into the World Cup. And there's been a lot of noise off the field. I said it the game right after the Honduras game. It was very difficult to analyze and assess because Honduras were that bad. You are not going to play opponents like Honduras or Curacao, most likely, in the World Cup. Things need to be better. It needs to be tighter, and cut out this nonsense, getting into it with Concacaf and like flexing here and looking for respect. You earn respect by going out and winning and playing a style of football that's conducive to troubling your opponent. That's how you gain respect, okay? So like back to basics here. I just hope that some of that outside noise, that some of it's being self-inflicted, it just needs to go away. The one guy that's putting his head down and not working is being very humble is the captain right now, and Jonathan David. I trust him leading the way, setting the tone right now. They need that kind of leadership just to get back to work, back at it. Not everything is lost, but certainly tonight, you go into Tuesday looking at this team a little bit of a different way, and the expectations should be raised. We should expect more, and hopefully we'll see more on Tuesday night as well. He's AGR. He's Jordan Wilson. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back. I think are we doing this again after Tuesday night's game? I have no idea. I'm assuming that we will. I'll check the schedule and I'll get back to you all. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday night. This has been a live question and answer after a 1-1 draw. Canada, Curacao at the Gold Cup. This is One Soccer Direct.